We're going to carry on something that we've been thinking about for the last few weeks now. I've heard some wonderful talks on the Beatitudes, and this week we've got to oaths. Last week we heard about adultery, and the week before we heard about murder the week before. So I'm really glad that I've got oaths, I can tell you. I really am glad. And we're going to carry on to think about that. And we're thinking about swearing today. Woo, swearing. We're going to be expanding Jesus' comments on swearing and oaths. And it might surprise you to know, I know that you don't know me very well. Those that I'm in the same house group as do know me better. But some things make me really grumpy. And one of them is to hear people talking to each other and using swear words as confetti, you know. And I don't want to be ageist, but it's usually the younger generation. And every other word seems to be a swear word. Now, I don't want you to sit here thinking, well, yeah, Kim would never swear, because believe me, I do. I've got two of my dearest friends here today, and they know me very well. And so I'm not holier than thou. Yeah, because such words have sometimes, I have to say, passed my lips, but usually in times of great frustration, you know, at the worst possible times. But when the words become part of normal conversation, I do fear for society. Now, I don't know if any of you know the comedy duo Flanders and Swan. I think most of us here are of an age where we might have heard of them at least. But if you think about the song, Mud, Mud, Glorious Mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. They wrote it, and they wrote lots and lots of others. And I am a huge Flanders and Swan fan. And I'll bore you to death with songs from Flanders and Swan if you're not very careful. And they were very big in the 1950s and 60s. And Donald Swan used to write all the music. He was a great musician, a linguist. He spoke so many different languages. And as you can see, a pianist. And Michael Flanders was the man who used to say the things and sing the songs. He used to be an actor. And then suddenly he was struck down with polio, so he was in a wheelchair, and his acting roles sort of dried up, quite understandably, dried up a bit, so they decided to do this. And they were huge in the 50s and 60s, went all over the world. Well, one of the things that Michael Swan said was, I am very much against the use of four-letter words. He was talking about the decline of society. He said, there's not many of them. And if they all come into common usage, there'll be nothing left for special occasions. And that's kind of that's my stance on those kind of words. But it wasn't that kind of swearing that Jesus was talking about in the Beatitudes. When he said that people shouldn't swear, he wasn't talking about that. He was talking about not compounding some triviality or affirming a lie by swearing an oath. He was talking about swearing oaths rather than just swearing. Now, in the Old Testament times, in the Hebrew Scriptures, oaths were to be sworn in God's name only. Okay? If you swore an oath, if you said something was true, then you swore it in God's name, and you only swore it in God's name. And they were used for important matters, affirming important matters. They were not for trivial matters. They were to be true. And they were used to solve disputes and disagreements, and to seal covenants, agreements or binding covenants, or simply to affirm the truthfulness of an important declaration. And a modern version of this, because there are modern versions of it, and if you think about oaths, it's, I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So it's carried on. So they swear by Almighty God. And in a minute, we're going to have a look at the reading that Jesus was talking about. But I want you to have that in the back of your head. That, when you're swearing oaths, it's to swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give, brother. Swear by Almighty God, nobody else.
Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one.
So that was Jesus being very, again, as always, straight to the point. And maybe you'd like to know a little bit of explanation about why he said that. Because like I said, the oaths that people swore had to be in God's name. And it was kind of like, this is the truth. And when I was preparing this, I thought about the time when I used to interview people when I was a police officer. And if somebody said, it's the God's honest truth, officer, I'd know it was neither God's or honest or the truth, And I thought about the time when, there's so many times, but when I arrested a young man and he said, I swear on my mother's grave I didn't do it. Actually, his mother wasn't dead, because I knew her and she wasn't dead. But this is what had happened, you see. The law had been misinterpreted. And of course, the Pharisees got involved with it. So things went a little bit awry. And Jesus was addressing what had happened as a misuse of the time. Because if you swore by God, then, God was judging you and you'd got to tell the truth. But people were struggling a little bit with telling the truth all the time. And if you sit there and think, oh, shock horror, that would never happen, I have to say, think about it. Because, the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth is quite difficult to do consistently, but it's what they asked us to do. So what they used to do is instead of swearing by God, they would swear on their head. I swear on my head. I swear by heaven. I swear by earth. I swear by Jerusalem. They used to say those kind of words so that they weren't pinned down to you're falsely swearing by the name of God, So this was a get out clause by swearing on everything other than God. So this is why Jesus said, you're not to swear on anything. Because people had taken these oaths and misinterpreted them and were, they were circumnavigating the situation. They were finding a loophole because they were swearing on anything other than God. So Jesus said, well, don't swear on anything then. Don't swear on anything. What he was doing was he was saying, do you know what? I know you want to be credible, but let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't use any name to swear by. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. He says there's no way around it, He was really good at cutting through all the falsehoods and getting to the point. And these are pointers for all of us: reliability, respect, and sincerity. And I found this picture, which I thought was beautiful, this is the Mount of Beatitudes. And somebody's going to put a blooming great church in the way. But Jesus would have been standing on this mountain overlooking all the Sea of Galilee, all the area. It was a beautiful spot as he's talking to people. He would have been looking out. But he was looking out because it wasn't just for those people who were standing there. It was for the people out there. And that includes us. About let your yes be yes and your no be no. In other words, let's be Christians and act with integrity, because integrity is in short supply these days. I don't know if you found it, but often when I go into a shop, somebody will tell me what they think I want to hear rather than the truth. And Jesus is saying, just don't do that. Don't try and flatter people. Don't try and swear by something false. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. Keep that integrity that we're called to have. Keep that integrity that will shine out in this world against all the false words, all the flattery, all the other stuff that goes on, that people saying that, what you want, what they think you want to hear. Keep your integrity and be Christians in a real world. So that's our challenge for today. That's our challenge for this week. Let our yes be yes. Let our no be no. Let us treat each other with respect and integrity, and let's show kindness and compassion as Jesus did to the rest of the world. But it's something for us to think about and aspire to. And when we get it wrong, we can always ask for forgiveness. Because I don't know about you, but I spend most of my day asking for forgiveness. But we will, by our actions rather than by our, preaching at people, we will make a difference in the world, all of us, every one of us, by being the person that Jesus has asked us to be, to let our yes be yes and our no be no.